In this video, it's my pleasure to interview one of my besties, Farrah Reyna. She has advice on how you can overcome your ex relationship and move on and manifest your best life. So stay tuned. Hey you, thanks so much for joining me for this video. My name is Angela and I am on a spiritual and weight loss journey. I'm down 34 pounds, making major changes in my life, and I have been spiritually led to interview some people that I know that have helped me in my own journey, and Farrah is one of those people. She is not only a personal friend, she's also someone that I've looked up to and admired for a very long time, and I'm so excited to see that she's now offering a course, 12-week course that's called Let Your Ex Go. She has been through her own personal struggles, and now she's come out on the other side with a passion to help people like her who are in the trenches, who are struggling with the relationships, specifically romantic relationships. So let's dive straight into the interview with Farrah to find out how she can help you. So Farrah, thank you so much for joining us today on this video. For everybody who doesn't know you and is not familiar with your particular brand of expertise, if you will, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in Louisiana, just like yourself. So I'm a Southern girl. My friends call me a Southern belle with a little bit of gypsy in her. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how that all works out. So we'll see. Like you, Angela, I worked in the broadcast television industry for, 15 years and got burned out. And I just felt like there was more to life than just being a professional reader of really bad news every day. But through this journey, I did achieve my dream job of working as a news anchor in New Orleans. And 9 months later, I realized that that really wasn't my dream. So it's kind of weird how we think our dream and passion is one thing, and then you're actually doing it, you achieve that goal, and you think, wait a minute, is something wrong? Because this is not making me happy. This does not fulfill me. So I left the industry, I guess in, 5 years ago, and was unemployed for 6 months. So I went from being main anchor in a top 50 market to no job, which drives my family crazy. But it was what I needed during this personal growth period I was going through. My whole life, I've always been interested in personal growth and psychology and subconscious work and conscious work and awakening and third eye and all this really cool spiritual stuff. And so I have an opportunity to really learn more about it and study it. As a kid, I sort of had premonitions anyway. I was very intuitive. I could pretty much predict what was going to happen or predict what someone would say before they actually did it. And as a little girl, when I would tell my parents I would see things or dream about different unique people or ghosts, I was taken to the psychiatrist and my brain was scrubbed to put these little suction on my head to test my brain waves to make sure I wasn't a schizophrenic, right? So then I just shut it down. And then tragedy happened when I was in the second grade, which sort of opened up my intuitive side and kind of my connection with the spiritual realms. And since then, it's been on hold, but I've always tapped into it when I needed to. But now that I know this is my purpose, to use my connection with the divine to help other women and empower them, through creating healthier relationships. That's kind of been my full-time job, the last year and a half. Recently got my certification as a life coach and a professional coach. And my specialty is relationships. So I am a relationship expert and a breakup guru. And my friends laugh when I say guru, but I've had my fair share of breakups and heartbreak. I mean, people say, oh my God, but you're so cute and petite and you have such a great personality and your life's so perfect. I'm like, please, my life is as terrible sometimes as yours. The outside appearance of people doesn't dictate how great their life is. It's really what happens to them throughout their life and how they feel internally. So the exterior is really just a fake shield as to what's really going on and how we really feel. And I've never had a really loving, connected relationship. I've had a lot of emotionally detached and absent relationships. And from that, I learned a lot, not only about myself, but about how women attach to their partner in unhealthy ways. I'm a victim of it, but thankfully, I became curious about that. And I've done a lot of research and studying, and through my certification, I've learned a lot of really helpful techniques to help women find better and healthy relationships. So that's kind of a little bit about my story and what I'm doing now. And, I'm just so grateful to have this opportunity.
I'm going to tell you too, I told Farrah before we started talking that my intention was that hopefully somebody watching will be interested in working with you as a client. I will tell you, I've been friends with Farrah for many, many years. She gives excellent advice, very intuitive advice. Like, I love that you're talking about the spirituality part of it. So for anybody who's watching this that doesn't know, we've been friends for a very long time. And it wasn't until just a few weeks ago that I was like, Farrah, I believe in angels. And you're like, okay, but I've been doing this for like a year and a half, and I'm glad we can talk about this now because you were afraid to tell me because I am Southern Baptist and I'm like, this is very woo-woo for me. But I will tell you that I believe that you do have gifts. I really do. And it's funny because looking back over the years, I feel that you've had these and we either never talked about it or you just never verbalized it or whatever. And it's interesting to me now, and I'm very excited for you. I'm very excited to see what you do with this and the women that you help with it, because we also have talked one-on-one, and we're going to talk about it now publicly, about how the heartbreak that you have gone through has set you up and given you the passion to help women that are either currently going through heartbreak or they see the heartbreak is coming. They want, a little hand holding and guidance through it, because what you learn the hard way, you will take your knowledge and empower women so that they don't have to suffer as badly as you did. Is that what really motivated you the most to get your coaching going and like build your course and all the things that you're doing right now?
Yeah, I'm recently divorced, 4 years, and I'm happily divorced and single. But shortly after my divorce, I did enter into a relationship with someone that was very special to me. It was a very unique relationship, and I completely manifested it. So if you want to learn more about manifestation, Angela's your girl to talk about that too. But I manifested this relationship. It was straight out of 50 Shades of Grey, if you would. He was my Christian, if you will. And I was completely swept off my feet. It was a beautiful, loving, amazing relationship, something that I had never experienced in my life, but I loved it. And I was treated so beautifully the first year. And then all of a sudden, all hell broke loose and I was treated like complete shit. And so through that experience, it brought me to a place of, as you and I talked about the other day, me just jumping off the cliff and I'm just still like falling. I haven't hit ground yet, but I'm falling, right? And I'm trying to claw myself back up, but it's not happening because I'm just so engrossed into this relationship. And I just, the whole time kept thinking, gosh, this person was so beautiful to me, gave me the love that I had never had as a kid or even as a young adult, gave me the care, the nurturing that I craved my whole life. Mm-hmm. And how is it all of a sudden it's gone, in the blink of an eye? And so, after the first year when things were really going downhill, I was grasping at trying to get that back and really trying to figure out, did I do something wrong? Was it something, that I did or said or didn't do? And, I ended up on suicide watch as a result of that relationship. And, the relationship is over. We're friends. It was a growing experience for both of us, but to know that I let someone enter my life and make me have thoughts of suicide, and I let someone hurt me so traumatically that I wanted to end my own life was a huge wake-up call for me. I'm thankful that the employer I was with at the time knew I was going through a divorce, and my father had just passed away while this relationship was going downhill. Plus moving to a new city and living on my own for the first time in my life. I'm responsible for myself. My ex-husband's not responsible for me anymore, right? So it was just a culmination of a lot of things. And, thankfully, after they learned of my father's passing, my grandfather's passing, I called him my dad because he raised me, but my grandfather's passing, it was mandated that I went to counseling if I took family leave, and that saved my life. And so through counseling and therapy, and I was going every day, 5 days a week for 6 weeks, right? That was mandatory, especially when I failed the suicide evaluation and they wanted to admit me into a hospital. And it was a Friday afternoon, and she goes, you failed the psych eval, you are suicidal, you're high risk for suicide, so we're going to have to admit you over the weekend. And I'm like, I'm not suicidal. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I am fine. I am an anchor in New Orleans. I have a great life. I'm taking care of myself. Like, I was completely oblivious that I was sucked into this hole, and I thought it was okay and normal, right? And so she goes, I'm sorry, you have to go, or I have to call 911 and the ambulance is going to take you. I'm like, fine, I'll go, right? So I drive myself to the clinic, and sitting in the waiting room for an hour, and I'm seeing people come in, they're being checked in, they're being checked out for the weekend. And I'm like, what the, that was a slap in the face. That was the aha moment for me as to, oh my God, I've lost it. I've lost control of my life, my feelings, everything. This is not okay. And, watching people come in and out of that psych ward made me want to fight for my life. And so I left and called her and I said, look, called my counselor. I was like, look, I can't do this. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I am not ready to be institutionalized. I cannot sit behind four walls this weekend. That's going to make me even worse. I now have a need to fight for my life. And so thankfully she said, look, here's the deal. You're going to call me every day all weekend. You're going to come in and see me this weekend, but you have to have someone stay with you. And so I had a friend drive in 3 hours to New Orleans, and they stayed with me for 4 days. While I was alone, they brought me to therapy. And that was kind of a really big turning point for me. So I continued with therapy and, reconnecting with old friends who have gone through similar situations like this, a divorce and a breakup and all of that. And I was like, you know what? No woman should ever let a man bring her to her knees like I let one bring me to mine. No person should ever let you want to kill yourself. You should not let anybody create so much pain that you want to end your own life. And so as I'm healing and getting better and learning why we do these things, and then I wanted to become a certified professional coach, talking to my girlfriends about this, they were experiencing the same thing. So many women I've learned the last 2 years, they don't know how to create boundaries. As women, we are emotional, so we're sometimes too nice. We give too much. We are fearful of standing up for ourselves and telling someone, no, this is not okay. You can't treat me this way. You can't talk to me this way, right? So I've learned a lot in the process, really just through my own path of healing. I'm continuing to heal and grow, but it was really just my journey, my fight for survival, and hearing that so many of my closest friends are feeling the same way. And I didn't even know it until I asked them about it. I said, okay, this is it. I'm on a mission to change women. I'm on a mission to empower women, to teach them, one, how to get over trauma and heartbreak, which is number one thing you have to do. Because when you don't, you're full of anxiety and depression and what ifs, and you think you're the crazy one, because I thought I was crazy, but two, in this process of, as I coach my clients, I teach them the healthy boundaries of a relationship and healthy ways to attach people. And I'll dive quickly, into my childhood. All of this stemmed because of my childhood trauma. And I never dreamed or knew or heard of what childhood trauma was. Going through therapy, it was a label, a diagnosis, and medication, right? And I love counseling and therapists, and I am an advocate for it. Everybody should go. A counselor and a therapist serves a purpose for you, but there's also other people like you and me who are divine, spiritual, connected beings, who are faith-based Christians, and who really focus more on a deeper level, the subconscious level. And that's what coaching does. It's a different type of therapy. It's really, really in-depth one-on-one with a client. And so I didn't know that my inner childhood trauma, which was my dad abandoned me when I was 2 after my mother passed away of meningitis. And she died at 2, and he came to the funeral and he left and disappeared for the rest of my life. And the first time I met him, I was 16. That did not go over well. So my grandmother raised me in a single home environment. And then the only father figure I had from 3 years old up until the 2nd grade, he was killed in a plane crash. So every male figure in my life had abandoned me or left or was taken away from me. And so I did not know what a healthy relationship was with a male figure. I had no idea. So as early as I could get a boyfriend, honey, in high school, I had a boyfriend, right? And I clung to him so tight. Even though he was abusive and cheating on me and mean and ignored me and was emotionally absent, I was like clinging on to dear life. This is a man in my life. I've never had this before. He loves me. He's giving me attention. But I didn't know. I didn't have the knowledge to know that he's not the right man. And there is one out there. I just have to change my thought process, improve my subconscious, and find a better, healthier me so I can attract the loving, caring, nurturing man in my life that I deserve. And that's what I want to help women do.
I love everything you just said, and I appreciate you being vulnerable and letting people know some of the struggles and sufferings that you have been through, because your story can inspire so many, because I'm sure there are people out there watching who feel exactly the way you felt. Let me ask you this now. What do you think has changed for you? Do you think it's self-love and self-worth? What do you think it is?
Yeah, one, it's knowledge and education, right? I mean, going to the counselor and therapist, which I had not been to one since I was a kid, was very helpful. There's a taboo in the society that thinks, oh, if you go to counseling, you're crazy, or if you see a therapist, there's something wrong with you. Actually, it's not. It is the best step to take moving forward to find out how you can feel better and improve your life. Because what a counselor and a therapist did for me was they helped me uncover sort of the blind spots that I had that I didn't even know I had. They helped me better understand what my behavior was and why I was doing it. My very first counseling session after failing the suicide test, she goes, look, I need you to read a book about anxious attachment. I'm like, what is that? She goes, you have the niceness syndrome and you have attachment disorder. And I had no idea what that was. And it is very prevalent in children who lose parents at a very early age, because, even in the womb, in our mother's womb, we're already growing attached to her in a very, natural spiritual way, right? You know, a mother and a child is such a deep connection that we can't even really explain, right? You're a mom, you get it. And so I had that, you know, but as my personal development growth was continuing from infancy to toddler to being just a kid, I didn't have that nurturing from her. It stopped at 2 years old when I was really still a baby, just learning to walk and talk and be potty trained, right? And so that was taken away from me. So my DNA automatically shifted and it started to adjust and change. Like your chromosomes will adjust and change according to the new environment that you have when your parents leave you. And so I was adjusting to having a grandmother raise me. While she loved me unconditionally and she was there for me, it still wasn't that same intimate connection that I would have had with my mother. And then when my father left me, it's like a double whammy, right? It's like I literally had to start raising myself emotionally and spiritually on my own at the age of 2. And so I learned that that's why I'm always trying to please people, because I've never really had that connection with anyone. So I'm overly nice. I'm too happy. I overcompensate so people don't leave me because I've been abandoned, right? And so I didn't know that my childhood was why I did the things I did and why I stayed in relationships that I had stayed in. And I wouldn't have known that until I went to a therapist who knew about, anxious attachment disorder. And so that was helpful. But after that, I learned what was wrong with me and tools how to improve. And I was hooked. I was like, okay, I have to continue my education. I've got to continue to grow and be a better person because I don't want to live like this. I don't want to attach to the wrong people the rest of my life. I don't want to deal with abuse anymore the rest of my life. I want to be happy and whole. And so, after being educated as to what's really wrong with me and that I didn't need really medication, thankfully at the time, that there were cognitive behavioral techniques that I could study and learn to transform myself and my behavior, I did that. Then personal growth, self-love came into play hugely, because once you learn the tools, what do? You have to implement them. So in order for me to implement those tools of not attaching to not attaching to bad relationships, I had to learn to love myself enough to say no, learn to love myself, to draw the line and not be too nice to where sometimes it would completely harm me, so education was the first step. And the second step was self-love and really self-evaluation too. Ooh, talk about a wake-up call. I mean, there are some days I still think, I did that? Who is that person? But now I love myself so much that I can say I'm happily single and divorced, and that feels amazing.
Well, you're an amazing person. I've always had deep admiration for you. I'm very happy about your new journey because I feel that you definitely have this sense of purpose about you. So for people out there who are watching, give them a little bit of some taste, because you said that you had 4 emotional techniques to teach them about. So teach them a little bit and give them a taste of what it's like to work with you.
Yeah, I think the number one thing that we always go through with my clients is we learn what trauma is. And we learn the psychological and physiological effects of trauma. And so what I really want people to do is do research into how trauma affects you. And of course, I'm available if you need assistance for me to show you, more in-depth one-on-one to talk about how trauma affects you. It really screws up our brain, like our dopamine levels, our estrogen levels, our cortisone levels, that all shifts and changes. So when you're going through a traumatic event, such as a breakup or somebody abandoning you, you're not crazy though you feel like you are. You didn't do anything wrong though you feel like you did. It is your mind trying to adjust to that physical separation. And when that happens, then it trickles down emotional, spiritual, psychological, and through a physiological way. I love to tell people really study and research how I am better. I don't need that. I am glad I'm over it. So those are just 4 simple techniques that my clients do the first 30 days we start working together. And, it's been helpful for them. And I do this. And in fact, I do this actually now every month. I still keep up with these 4 techniques because I still want to learn and just stay healthy. That's all.
I want to grab the last one that you mentioned, the gratitude list, because we do talk about it all the time. And for me, it is a personal, it's not a technique or a tool, but it's like a way that I definitely stay grounded. And although I don't think I've ever been through trauma, I know that I've had some sadness too. I've had postpartum depression and times, that are tough. I think that the gratitude list, and Abraham Hicks calls it the focus wheel, or you can simplify it and say reaching for a better feeling thought. When we talk about manifesting, everything is like the energy that you put out into the world, and it's your feelings, it's your thoughts, it's your emotions. And I feel that when you talked about the gratitude list, when you make a list of things that you are grateful for, even if it's something basic, like I'm glad the sun is shining today, I'm grateful that I have air conditioning in my house. Sometimes you can write stuff like that and that's fine. I think that when you reach for a better feeling thought, especially for somebody who's gone through deep trauma or is suffering from depression, something deep like that, that it can help you baby step at a time, build the foundation for a stronger house. So if you want to talk a little bit more about gratitude, I mean, do you have a daily practice? Like I know you have like a daily spiritual practice, but do you have a daily gratitude practice?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it's so funny. Before we got on the phone, I was organizing my notebooks here, my daily journal, and then of course my journal, my gratitude and life journal. Yeah, in the morning, I try to start off with a little bit of just quiet time, some meditation. And what I love about YouTube is you can find all sorts of meditation. And as I'm learning and growing about meditation, there are different subject matters that you can meditate about. Right now, mine is opening the third eye, of course, because I'm just like real interested in that because my third eye is awakening. Of course, people can ask you more about that. So that's my next 7-day journey is though, every 2 weeks or so, I change the subject matter of my meditation, which helps me feel better and grow, and then I work. And then at the end of the day, when I go to bed, the last thing I do is ask myself, what went well today? Right? It's the first thing I say is what went well today? What didn't go so well? And when I say what didn't go so well, it's something, what could I have improved on, improved on? Did I get frustrated with somebody for no reason? How could I change that behavior? And then usually 3 or 4 things that I'm grateful for. And you're right. Some days I'm grateful for my bike ride and hearing the birds chirp, right? Because I think when we become more mindful about our surroundings, it does help us better appreciate those in our life. And it connects us with everything that brings positivity to our life, which is what we all need. I mean, there's so much negativity in the world right now. And, just changing that mindset and changing those habits, just that little bitty habit of just implementing a journal about your life, your day, your experience, and end it with gratitude or start it with gratitude. The beautiful thing about writing a gratitude list is you can do it anytime. You can do it in the morning while you're, eating breakfast. You can do it on your break at work. Just be sure to do it because it does make you go back and think, oh man, this is great. Things are going well for me. So it's helpful.
You're right on it. I would love to, and we don't have to. I'm like, if you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to. I would love to talk about angels. And because, I'm into it right now. Like I'm so into angels. Like, Farrah, can we talk about angels, please? So you and I have opened up with each other recently about the angel realm and how we are tapped into it. And I have been working on overcoming my fear. I'm grateful for you and your friendship because I only have like 2 or 3 friends I can discuss this stuff about. And I'm so like into it. If you don't mind sharing about your own personal experiences, and I love that you mentioned that your third eye is opening, which I definitely think is going to make you a better coach because your intuition is already strong and it's just going to continue to keep getting stronger. Just talk to us a little bit about all of that, all the woo-woo. I like that.
Oh yeah, you and I are so woo-woo now. It's great. It's a beautiful journey, and I encourage anybody who is just remotely interested in to learn more about spirituality, awakening, and woo-woo, please do it. It's a beautiful thing. It helps you see beyond, the physical part of our world. It's funny, as I mentioned earlier, when I was a kid, I always would see things. I've seen ghosts. I would have very vivid dreams about people. I had premonitions, I would talk to my parents about them or to my grandmother about them a little bit. And next thing I know, I was headed to the psychiatrist. And like I said, the only thing I remember is having my brain scrubbed to the point it bled. My scalp, they scrub it clean and they put these little suction cups on your head to check your brain waves to make sure that you are normal, right? So, I passed the test and I'm normal, but because of the pain of just cleaning my scalp for that test, it just shut me down completely. And so I stopped talking about what I was seeing. I do remember though, in junior high, my dance team and I would play with the Ouija board a little bit. That sort of kind of awakened me again. Afterwards, I was seeing ghosts. I was having stronger premonitions.
Were you scared whenever you would see a ghost?
No, absolutely not. I was more curious than scared. I remember being at a friend's house and sleeping over, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was this big light, this light around the foot of the bed, and it was a person. It was a lady, in white. I mean, she was a ghost, and then I didn't want to make a fuss about it or start talking to her or try to communicate because, I was at a slumber party and last thing I needed was a group of girls to go to school and tell them I was crazy, right? No girl wants that in high school. So I, acknowledged her and thanked her for showing up and then I went back to bed, right? But I never talked about it. And so throughout my whole life, I've always been very intuitive. I mean, as I told you, I predicted my grandfather's plane crash, and when I was in the second grade. I saw it. I knew it was going to happen, and I told my grandmother, and sadly, it did. But the fear went away a long time ago as a kid. And, some spiritual leaders tell me it's because my mother passed away at a young age, and she's always been with me. And so that has made me really intuitive because I can channel her and I have that spiritual connection with her, which I love, right? My mother's always with me, and her sign that she's with me are rainbows. And you and I talked about how I see rainbows all the time. I mean, almost daily I see rainbows, So as I get older and I'm learning more to be open, with the third eye and my awakening and trying to hit that, I'm in between the third and the fourth realm of subconsciousness and consciousness. So I'm trying to get to the fifth realm, which I love, but it's definitely becoming more and more prominent. Angel numbers are hugely strong in my life right now. Every day, almost throughout the day, there are angel numbers. They're constantly slapping me in the face. And what angels numbers are is they're synchronized numbers that you see throughout the day, whether on a clock or radio station, maybe on a billboard, it's like 333 or 1111 or 222 or 5555. They all have symbolic messages, that the Bible has created, that angels have put together to show humans that your guardian angels are with you, following you, and this is their guide, right? And the guide can be, hey, you are on your purpose. This is your destiny. You're on the right track. Or, hey, it's time to change course here. This number's telling you may want to clean house a little bit and change course. This isn't the route you're supposed to go. So there's so many different ways, though, that we all can channel our spiritual guides and our angels. We all have the ability to do it. Most of us are afraid or just cut off from that. But I love the fact that I am opening it up more and I'm free to talk about it, because for me, it's a beautiful thing. And it's been so helpful in my personal growth journey. I love knowing my mother is with me. And, I just moved into an amazing new apartment that she sent me. It was a blessing from her. It was a miracle from her. And she's my guardian angel, and she's listening to me. And I talk to her all the time. I mean, I'm like, hey, Mom, all right, is this a good move or not? And I can totally hear her, and I hear her through different ways. And a lot of people say, well, how do you know it's her? Well, one, that little voice inside, that little intuitive voice, is her talking to me. And really, that's my soul talking to her soul. Okay. And then again, angel signs, or maybe there's a rainbow, or maybe I'm on Facebook and there's like a quote or a passage I read that aha was like, oh, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is my mother giving me a guidance and advice, So it's just really an individual decision. I mean, like you, I grew up in Southern Baptist church, very religious, but when I went to high school, I decided to be non-denomination because I wanted to open myself up more to just a specific religion. I am a Christian. I believe in Jesus. It's my faith, but I also believe in the universe and archangels and all this other spiritual stuff because I see it. I feel it. I know it's helpful for me.
It is a blessing. I want to tell you as well that I know it's going to make you a better coach, because I feel that the best life coaches are tapped into that, because for your clients, you can feel their energy and you can tell them the messages that they are closed off to, because you tell me things that I'm like, I don't know how you know that, so it's because you are farther along on your spiritual journey than I am. So although I'm eager to learn, I'm like, girl, I'm so far behind, and that's okay. Everybody has their own path and their time. I even asked you, I think it was like either yesterday or the day before, I was like, what can I do? Or, what can I do about this fear? And you're like, your time will come whenever it's meant to. And like, you're already giving me good life advice. So I think that anybody out there who's interested in working with Farrah, I think that what her gifts will do is enhance your life and enhance your relationships, because that's, I know, going to be your specialty. But I think everything's holistic. Like, it's a whole picture, because it's not just relationships. It's like, again, your self-love and like your own, like, it's like nobody will love you the way that God will and the way that angels will, because their love is unconditional. So in the human relationships, we do the best we can. We do the best we can, but we also need to remember that it's going to be, perfectly imperfect, if you will. So if you want to talk about that too, and like why you felt like relationships were going to be your way, I know because you've had your own situations and stuff, but like, what is your hope for whenever you work with a client? Like, what is your hope for their journeys?
Yeah, so two things that I learned when I was going through my certification to be a professional coach is that, one, the term abandonment is seldom used. And what people don't really understand is that abandonment causes the depression, anxiety, overwhelm, and all the feelings that we're told that we are feeling and that we're medicated for. If you're depressed, you're giving tools to get over the depression and you're medicated for it. I don't feel like that we're doing enough to talk about, well, what caused the depression? And most of the clients that I work with, it was some form of abandonment from their mother, their father, a husband, a partner, whatever the case is. It was some form of trauma that caused the effects of depression and anxiety. I mean, it's like you with postpartum depression. I mean, that caused the symptoms of anxiety, fear, suicidal thoughts, and sadness and aloneness, right? And so as a coach, I want to bring to the forefront that everybody suffers trauma in their life to some degree. I think sometimes when we think of trauma, it is somebody's legs cut off and you're going to the emergency room. Trauma is very real when it comes to the conscious, the subconscious, and emotional trauma. I mean, like you have been very public about your weight loss journey and being a binge eater. And so there was something that happened to you at a very young age that caused you to feel like a binge eater, that caused you to have a block when it comes to understanding your weight, right? And so whatever happened to you, whether someone was mean to you or somebody made comments to you that made you be more self-conscious, that is your form of trauma. And that is serious. And trauma affects us in our subconscious in ways that we don't understand unless someone points it out to us and someone shows us what the trauma is and how we understand it and get through it, right? So the first thing I want people to know, and the first thing I learned, is that we have all experienced trauma, our own trauma. And what we need to do is self-reflect and realize what was traumatic that happened into our life. For some kids, it's just a simple fact as a divorce, just the separation of parents and living two households. That is traumatic as well. And sometimes we don't think of that as trauma because we think trauma has to be something that's worse than that. So I want people to really understand that we all suffer from trauma. Find out what your trauma is and really learn to work through that. Even if it happened in your childhood, it carries on through your adulthood until you recognize it, address it, and heal from it. We don't talk about abandonment enough. Abandonment is really the foundation that causes a lot of our psychological problems. And we just don't talk about it. We go to the top. It's depression. We don't really talk about what caused the depression. Well, my dad left me, my mother left me. And it could be emotional abandonment. Maybe you have two parents, but they're not nurturing and they don't praise you and they're not there for you. They're emotionally absent. That is abandonment as well. That creates trauma in your life. It affects the subconscious. And again, you take it with you as you grow. So my ultimate goal is I want us to start talking about trauma. I want us to start understanding it. I want us to talk about abandonment because it's true, it's real, it happens. And almost everybody suffers from it at some point in their life. It's like the last relationship I had, he left me just out of the blue. Beautiful relationship, 3 years of struggle, and then out of the blue, he's gone, like left me, just like my dad did. Now, I love the spin that you give me to help me feel better about it is that I repelled him. I totally believe that. But for you and I, we get it because we're at a fourth dimension here of the subconscious, right? And the conscious level. But for the average person,
for people who are watching, whenever you say you repelled him, to explain it to people who have no idea what that means, it's your energy. Because Abraham Hicks, who is like the spiritual teacher, says that your energy was protecting you. And so he was repelled. So whenever you think of somebody left you, it's like it was meant to be. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the background of what you meant with the repel.
Yeah, but a lot of people, the average person doesn't see it that way, because we live in a victimized mentality, unfortunately. That's how we're raised. That's how we're trained, right? And our parents raise us the best they know how. They teach us the ways of life like their parents did and their grandparents did, right? But it's up to us to break that cycle, right? And so, I lived in the victimized mentality for 2 years. I felt like I was abandoned, just like my dad, just like every other man in my life had done. Even though I was, there for him and an amazing partner for him, it wasn't enough, right? And so learning that though, and learning, more about energy, that it really was me, my energy and my subconscious and my spiritual guides telling me, he's just not the right fit for you, Farrah. He's not the one. Let it go. Let it go, right? That's been the theme in the last year. And so I had to hear and understand that. There's just, Angela, it's such a complicated process to get over heartbreak, period. To get over trauma, period. And for me, as I said, going through this process and becoming a coach, I don't think the conversation is right. I think we have to change the conversation. And that's what I want to do, especially for women. Hey, ladies, if you have been abandoned, it's okay. Talk about it, accept it, but do the research and get better. And then connect spiritually. And you're going to learn, like you just told me, he left you because you really didn't want him in your life to begin with. He wasn't a good fit for you. The universe was pushing him out. The universe created the negativity so you would wake up, slap you in the face and say, he's not the right one. Stop forcing something that doesn't work, right? And we are all notorious for staying in relationships that have expired decades or years or weeks ago, right? We all have a problem of letting go. And I think relationships, especially bad ones, are habits, but our energy, our guardian angels, a force beyond us that we can comprehend is always trying to show us and nudge us out, right? But instead we want to live victimized, like, you left me, and I'm a horrible person and I'm so ugly. No, girl, something bigger than you was doing you a favor by getting him out of your life, because the one is coming. They're making room for that perfect partner for you. You need to let go of the old soul that really didn't match. You need to stay single long enough to heal yourself and learn what you really want and be strong and empowered as a female, and then open yourself up to the partner that you're meant to have. And that's my goal. That's what I want women to understand.
I love this. I want to also say, and this is the last thing I'll say, because my gut's telling me my baby's about to wake up. I was like, I feel it, because we're getting to the 2-hour point of napping. I also want to say why it's important to invest in a coach, because I made the mistake. First of all, let me back up before I even start telling this story. So Farrah was first runner-up in Miss Louisiana. She competed in the Miss Louisiana pageant. I did too. I was not first runner-up. I was not even top 10. But I noticed that the girls who had coaches improved much more quickly. I'm talking like dramatic. And I was too cheap in my college years, to invest in a coach. And I have seen that scene play out over and over and over in the years. Like even when we were in TV news together, the girls who had agents got way better so fast. And I'm like, y'all, it's just worth it. You are worth it. Invest in yourself, spend the money on yourself, get a coach. I have a health coach to help me with my weight loss journey. Like, get someone help you. I genuinely feel that I have been so much more successful because I have a coach that is working with me one-on-one. So I've made a big deal about like Farrah and like, who she is as a person. And I know she shared with you a lot today about her own personal journey that has given her the passion to work with you. But Farrah, for those of you, or for those of the people who are watching at home that don't know your course, talk a little bit about it. I know at the time of us filming this that it hasn't quite launched yet, but it's on the verge. But hopefully, in a month or 2 or 3, somebody can come back to this video if they're just now coming onto it. Talk a little bit about your course.
Yeah, so I'm a relationship expert, breakup guru, and I have created a course to help women, and I'll take men as well, to get over their breakups, to get over their partners. And it's called Let Your Ex Go. And it is a 12-week, 13-lesson course that we do one-on-one, or you can sign up to do it in a group. See, there's a sisterhood with you as you're going through the journey, and there's a do-it-yourself offer where you can just pay for the program and download, and you can take the course at your own pace on your own time. I'm so excited to say the course will actually be launching April 20th of 2020. So folks will be able to find it and reach out to me. You'll have the 3 options. The website will tell you more about what those 3 options are. But like I said, the first 3 or 4 lessons, it's understanding trauma. It's understanding betrayal and how that impacts you and how you're going to get over it and deal with it. And then the middle part is the personal growth, the self-love, self-care section. And then towards the end is teaching you how to attract healthy relationships. So you don't have to become a chronic dater. You don't have to be like me and end up with multiple breakups and live your life in heartbreak all the time. It means that when you finish the course, you're healed. You understand why you and your ex were not a good fit. And I help you prepare yourself to attract the right person that you're meant to be with, so you can live a happy, healthy life with someone that you truly love.
This is beautiful. And I hope that everybody out there who's watching and is on the fence will take the plunge, because I know that it will help them. I will have your information in the description box below. If there's anything else that I haven't asked you, this is the news anchor question. Is there anything I haven't asked you that's important to leave people with?
No, I'm just so glad you're still doing your videos to help and empower women. I mean, you and I have the same mission. We both really just want to educate women, help women to be the best that they can, to love themselves no matter what their exterior looks like, and to move forward and to just feel empowered. I mean, I wish there were people like you and me when we were, young and coming up in the world and figuring out what was going on. So thank you for your platform. I mean, you're doing amazing work as well. And I'm just so grateful for the messages that you share, and they've been helpful not only to me, but I know to so many people. So keep it up, girl.
Thank you. I will say that I feel that if we hadn't struggled so much, it wouldn't mean so much to us, right? Like if you hadn't been through the trenches in your relationship, and if I hadn't been in the weeds with my weight for so long, like we wouldn't be as passionate. So I definitely think there's a purpose for everything. So our suffering will hopefully help us to help others not suffer as much as we have. So that's what my passion is. I'm sure it's the same for you.
Yeah, that's the silver lining. You know, it's like 3 years of tears and suicide watch and medication. Now I get it. It's so I can help women. I'm not saying that they won't go through the same experience, but I want to give them the tools to get through it in a healthy way and to understand why it happened to them. So when they do get on the other side, they can be like you and I, help empower and help other women.
That's so good. Good stuff. All right, girl. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Farrah, for sharing your struggles with us. If you like this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up, click that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future videos coming out soon. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.